Right, are we live? I think we're live. Can you hear us? If you can hear us, just send some reacts, please. um, I think we're live. We can start. Hey everyone,
I'm Nabila.
and I'm Giap.
Welcome to
MMI abroad, UK.
So before we start,
Yep.
if you guys can hear us clearly, please react by sending the love button or some emoji down there.
That'll help us a lot. And so we're gonna talk about two of our hospitals, and it's all about St. Bart's, London.
And Great Ormond Street Hospital, London.
So if you have any questions throughout the talk, please just comment right at the side, and we have a team ready to moderate the questions, and we'll answer them at the very end. All right. So if you enjoy our live stream. Right. So these are the two hospitals, Gosh and St. Bart's. Let's begin.
So here is our outline for today. We're going to talk first about our hospital experience, then general overview on living in London, traveling tips, as well as applications methods, and lastly, some things that can probably make your life in London easier.
Yep. So we're gonna start with the hospital experience.
I'll start with Great Ormond Street Hospital first. I was posted, or rather, I chose to be in cardiorespiratory department. And since Kosh is a tertiary hospital for children in the UK, it is also one of the biggest postgrad teaching center in Europe. Hence, I got a lot of experience to learn, and mostly it is actually a self-directed learning, but it's a great one for me. And as you can see over there, the slides, those are the two main wards for me in Gosh, the leopard ward as well as the kangaroo ward in cardiorespiratory department. Apart from that, I also got to Zayed Center for Research into Rare Diseases in Children, right next to Gosh, where we go for clinics. Yeah.
Those are really cute wards.
Aw. It makes me feel really at home rather than at the hospital itself. So, hey, this is a very lengthy schedule, but I would like to share this with you guys so that you guys can know a bit more about what we do there. So, as you can see, from Monday to Friday, we actually have several different meetings, including transplant ward round, as well as multidisciplinary meeting for each patient. They also have an X-ray meeting where all the difficult CT scan or MRI are gathered, and different consultants, including radiologists, pediatric cardiologists, as well as pediatric cardiorespiratory physician, will look at them and discuss about different cases. And apart from that, we could also experience a lot of other things, for example, physiotherapy, psychology session, play session, and etc. But few things if I can share, if you want to learn more, be proactive.
Yeah, that's a very important point. Not stress enough.
And even though I was posted to respiratory department, I actually got to go to their psychiatry unit. I went into their chapel. I also joined few other clinical teaching sessions. So if you want to learn more, be proactive. However, if you feel like you want to experience London, people there are definitely receptive towards it. Hence, you have to be smart and plan your schedule a bit earlier. So here are some highlights of what I did at that time. If you can see the first picture in the middle, where there was a person teaching in front of a brain diagram, it's actually a clinical fellow from Israel. He is a neurosurgeon, and the night before talking to us, teaching us, he actually performed a neurosurgery on a conjoint twin. Yeah, and I feel like this teaching experience is what distinguished Kosh from other hospitals because the elective students, we got a day to ourselves every week to attend these clinical teaching sessions. It definitely helped me to learn a lot more, and I got to learn from different clinical fellows all over the world. So it's pretty cool. Next, if you see that slightly old guy to the right, the top right, well, he's Professor Martin Savage, a lecturer from Queen Mary Hospital. Nothing special though. He worked with Prof. Jim Tanner the one who created planner staging. Hence, he is a very, very experienced pediatrician, especially in endocrinology.
Planner staging as in a development to
Yeah,
puberty.
the puberty one.
I see.
Knowing that you get to learn from someone very amazing makes me feel more inspired and more keen on learning and utilizing my experience there. That's definitely a great plenary for me on that day. Next, some of the procedures that I get to do. These include the bottom left picture, which is ECMO, extracorporeal membrane oxygenation. In Malaysia for PEDS, we only have it at two hospitals, which are HKL as well as Hospital Serdang. But here we have around 7 to 10 ECMO machines, and if I didn't go to my elective fair, I probably would have never seen ECMO before. Next, that's a bronchoscopy done in kids, where we try to achieve several things, including to clear the airway, to absorb some secretion, to view the airway itself, and doing it in kids plus assisting the procedure itself gives me a lot of satisfaction and never
You get to
thought.
assist in bronchoscopy.
Yeah, I was holding the specimen sample.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Wow.
probably would have never got to do it if I didn't go to Gosh. And last, which is the bottom right, I get to do a cough swab on a patient. It's a very cute procedure though. You ask the patient to cough, and you gather the specimen to make sure that there to ensure whether there's any pathogen or not. Uh, I have never seen that done in Malaysia though. Hence, I feel like it's a unique experience that you can obtain there, and you get to do it by yourself. Yep, that's my highlight for Gosh. The top left picture is my schedule for plenary. So we were told about the topics that the teachers or clinical fellows are going to teach us. Hence, we can prepare
Oh, that's
before.
awesome. So it's all structured.
It's very structured, systematic, and nobody's going to force you. So you can choose to come or not to come. So if you want to experience London, be smart, guys.
So if you have any questions about anything, again, just remind you, comments or questions on the left, on the right, and we'll reply to you at the very end of today's live stream. Okay. Right. So now for my experience in St. Bart's Heart Centre. So a brief introduction about St. Bart's. It's UK's largest heart centre and certainly one of the largest heart hospitals in the whole of Europe as well. And if you can see the one on the right, the rightmost picture, that's a beautiful interior lobby of the St. Bart's Hospital. It used to be 3 different hospitals, and they tore all of them down and combined them to a mega hospital here. And in the middle, that's my supervisor, Prof. Appo, and he guided me throughout my whole electives posting. He's a very friendly fellow as well. Yeah.
Oh, he looks
And
kind.
yeah, he definitely is. Yeah, and that's me in front of the hospital. Right. So a brief outline of my electives. So I had 5 weeks of elective posting. So the first 2 weeks I spent them in cardiac surgery, where I mainly follow my supervisor. He's a cardiac surgeon. And next, in the third week, I'm following other surgeons in thoracic surgery. The fourth week, I'm mainly in the medical part, the cardiology department. And on the fifth week, and the last week, I'm returning back to cardiac surgery for wrapping up everything I've learned. So a brief schedule about my time in cardiothoracic surgery. So I wake up and depart by around 7 o'clock, sometimes 8 o'clock. So it depends on what I want to do, how much I want to experience. And if I depart at 7, I'll reach there around 8. London traffic, and we will talk to you about that as well later. And so I'll start with ward rounds and orals for the first operating theatre in the morning. Like for example, you can see on the leftmost picture, that's me along with the perfusionist, Miss Sophia, and they will guide me throughout whatever's inside the OT. So that's my typical morning schedule. And during lunchtime, around 12 to 2 p.m., and then after 2 p.m., they continue with the second round of operations in the afternoon. And typically, I'll reach home around 7 p.m. In the evening. So it's pretty alright. So the middle picture is showing a picture of me and Miss Wilson. She's a thoracic surgeon trained in robotic surgery.
Amazing.
That picture on the right, that's a robotics machine that you can use to operate on the lungs, even the heart, and other parts of the body. It's a very cutting edge technology that I very luckily get to observe. Yeah. So next, in medical part of the heart center, cardiology, it's typically the same structure as well, but the activity is a bit different. So I again go for ward rounds, and I also get to follow their clinic sessions where they follow up the previous patients or new patients as well. Then in the afternoon, I'll get to see a few procedures like what we call a PCI. For those in first and second year, PCI means a percutaneous intervention where we typically pass a line into through the arteries, and then we inflate the balloon to open up the blocked artery in the heart. Yeah, so you can see a picture of the stent actually on the right picture. That's a gift from me. A gift to me from the staff there in
Oh,
St. Bart's.
that's
Yeah,
cool. You still
yeah,
have it
yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah. Keep it and it's very precious to me because it reminds me of all the good memories I had in cardiology, and that is my supervisor in cardiology as well. So um, that's my schedule. And in terms of highlights, if you can see the top left picture, that's so the things that I observe are things like aortic valve or mitral valve repairs. So that's what it looks like. And then of course open heart surgeries. And it's crazy how they stop the heart, operate on it, and put it back, and like it's nothing, you know. But it's typically a surgery lasts around 4 hours. I mean it can last around 3 hours as well, but typically it's around 4 hours. So and then that's me holding a fresh lung lobe that's just been resected, and they allowed me to examine the lung and play with it, just feel the the texture of the lung. That's and then on the middle picture, that's me. I mean that's a picture of the robotic surgery,
Okay.
and if you can see, there's two cockpits over there. So the surgeon would be in one of the cockpits, and I was allowed to station at the other cockpit, and it was amazing because I get a direct view on whatever's happening in the surgery, and that is the robot at the side. So and then this is a PCI, just a picture of it, and also because St. Bart's is quite an advanced heart center, they perform surgery, I mean procedures in the cardiology department, like this TAVI. Basically, they don't have to open up the heart, but they can replace the valve of the heart just by passing a tube inside. And it's
Brilliant.
yeah, it's also another cutting edge technology that they're practicing. So we also get to see a few clinical trials as well because it's a forefront hospital in the field. Yeah. All right. So that's all for our hospital experience.
Want to ask more or know about our specific experience, you guys can ask the questions at the comment section. We'll answer it at the end of the sessions.
Now about living in London itself. Yeah.
And the first part, accommodation. You don't want to be homeless living in London, right? I just need to tell you that the prices of property or houses in London is crazy. They're very expensive, and it's very important for you to find the right accommodation at the right price. One thing that my friend suggested me was to go to a house owned by Mara. So our entity Mara.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a house called Buman House, located in Bayswater, and they offered a very reasonable price for a student. And there are choices of rooms. For example, one person room, sharing two person, three bedder, six bedder, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And they also have kitchen, shared bathroom, you can do your laundry over there, ironing board,
That's very
etc.
important.
Yeah, yeah. So at that price, when I compare it to other student accommodation in London, it's pretty cheap. So I would suggest you guys who wanted to go to London to check out Buman House accommodation. But if you have friends, definitely you can ask your friends. Who knows, they want to, accommodate you over there. I think that's what happened to you, right?
So yeah, in terms of my accommodation there, I was staying at my friend's place in London, so I didn't have to worry about accommodation as well.
But there's also a few other websites that you can check out, so don't forget to do that.
Mhm. So a few things to consider.
Yeah.
So the main things that what Nabila mentioned earlier as well are the facilities of your accommodation. So having a washing machine and ironing board and all that definitely helps. And your whether there's a fridge, you want to explain about?
Yeah, apart from property, another thing that's very expensive in London is food. The restaurant for a single meal usually they price the food at around £5 to £7 for each menu. So I think if you have to go out twice a day every day for a month, it's gonna cost a lot. So it's good because it's good to have a fridge and kitchen at your accommodation because you can actually buy some groceries and the groceries are cheap. So you can store it in your fridge and just cook it at the kitchen, especially for Muslim friends who find it quite hard to find food in London. Next, bedsheet and pillow is quite important as well because not all landlord provide that. Hence, you might have to ask them earlier on.
Otherwise, you have to buy them. It's not really worth it.
Yeah.
Elective, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And location, okay. Yeah, we can't stress enough how important location is in London because London is a mega city, a metropolis, and the distance matters a lot because even though you get a fairly cheap accommodation, but at the far end of London, whenever you want to travel back into your hospital, it takes a long time, and traffic in London is notorious as well. And so we would recommend that you find somewhere that's near to a tube or bus station and also close to wherever you want to travel in a daily basis. That would definitely save you a lot of hassle.
Yeah. The next things that you have to consider is, of course, your landlord. Make sure that they can accommodate your duration of tenancy agreement because elective and selective are quite short usually. And also the reviews from other students who know about that place or the previous renter. Yep, the accommodation. Like what Giap has mentioned, these are the areas in London, so just consider the zones and the place that you're going to do your selective or elective. Next, if you're walking, please check the weather first. And most importantly, UK houses don't really have aircon or fans, so it could be very hot in the summer.
Yeah, depending on which season that you're going to. So again, because Malaysians we're not typically used to check the weather every day we go out, but when we're there for electives, make sure you do that as a habit.
And be prepared.
Yeah, be prepared. Yeah. And this picture shows how the zones and postcodes are divided in London. But basically, understand that it goes from the zone 1, the center of London, all the way until zone 4 or 5 of London. So the further out it is, the further you are from the city center and where everything is happening. And also safety of the places as well. Typically, zone 1 or zone 2 and a bit of zone 3 is considered generally safe. But if you are out towards the peripheries, safety can be quite a bit of an issue. But again, check with the reviews and all previous comments from your friends. Right.
The next fun part,
the fun part.
traveling. So before we start, get excited about this traveling, few things to consider. Number one, and most important, is your safety. Of course, the city around Europe are famous for its tourism. However, trivial crimes can still happen. You don't want to be pickpocketed or catcalled during your holiday. It will definitely ruin your time there. So consider this thing. Next, because you're gonna walk around a lot, make sure that the pedestrian walk is safe for you to walk around the city. Next is accommodation. We would want to save a lot as a student, and I think personally, hostel works fine because you can get a lot of friends over there, especially from different nationalities, and also at the same time save your money. The third one is language. I think Jeff can also relate to this.
Yeah, language. Because typically, if you travel around Europe, you have to kind of accommodate to different languages. and let's say you go to the nearest country, France, and everyone there speaks French. And so you kind of have to learn a bit of their language to show that you're making effort to assimilate into, or at least understand the culture of the locals. Yeah.
There are several apps that you can use, for example, Duolingo, just,
Oh, yeah.
several like, short great things that could probably help you with your day. Next, public transport. Make sure that you know the coverage so that you can cover as much tourist spots as possible, as well as its price. Consider getting a day pass if you think that you're going to walk a lot that day because it definitely is a bargain. And third one, and I would like to emphasize this, that you can't be too ambitious. For example, if you want to go to Iceland or Norway where the public transport is not that established, you might have to drive. And to drive in winter in a stormy weather might not be a good idea. So I would suggest for you guys to check first before going to a place. And lastly, the currency.
Well, as you know, traveling in Europe and even UK itself, it's very expensive because of the currency. So make sure it is very advisable for you to check the currency rates beforehand and get yourself the cheapest rates available beforehand as well. And just want to emphasize a bit more about language before this. Even within UK, there are different parts of UK that have different accents, which you have to get used to. So if you travel further north, for example, you would have to get used to the accent of the Scottish people. Yeah. So it's pretty fun to see how different people speak different methods of English. But again, it's an experience for you to experience. Yeah. So a few pictures to show what's happening.
So this is London. Yeah, of course, London is famous for its tourist spot. That you can see is the Tower Bridge over there. And because I went during winter, there's that famous Winter Wonderland that you can see. But also, there's a lot more things that you can do in London. For example, museums and historical places,
My favorite.
palaces, and etc. So London itself is a very good city for you to travel around. Yeah, you want to share something about the museum
Oh
experience?
yeah, yeah, we have it up here. Yeah. So there are a lot of museums, and I have a lot to talk about. But for the sake of time, just gonna emphasize on this special museum just within Bath itself. It's a pathology museum where it is technically not open to the public, but the curator here, Mr. Dr. Martin, he's very enthusiastic about showing people all around the
Lucky
museum.
guy.
So yeah, so he brought me around for a private tour around the museum, and you can see a lot of interesting specimens here, like this skull of a child with hydrocephalus, and also a conjoined twin right here, and also a bit of history as well. Like for example, this guy, I forgot his name, but he's the only person in the history of UK to have been assassinated a prime minister, and it is there in Bart's museum. But unfortunately, this museum is pretty run down because it's been neglected for over 30 years, and they are in the process of restoring it. But again, if you're around there, you can drop by and visit. Yeah, definitely.
Mr. Martin will be able to
Yeah, yeah,
help you.
yeah. Just press the doorbell and you'll be there. Yeah, Scotland.
Yeah, I mean, like personally, Scotland is one of my favorite places in the UK, simply because it has a good combination of history, beautiful architecture, and breathtaking sceneries. If you can see the picture here, that's Arthur's Seat, one of the highest point in Edinburgh, and that's me climbing Arthur's Seat during winter. I'm pretty proud of myself for being able to do that. And you, Gio?
Well, those two pictures at the bottom. So the left view is a very picturesque view. I couldn't believe I managed to take this picture because we always see it on Google Images as well. But you can actually go there and take this exact picture on the view of Carlton Hill in Edinburgh as well. And that's the Edinburgh Castle on the right. And again, you can go up there and visit. It's all up to you, and it's just a train ride away the train ride takes around 4 hours
Yep.
from London to Edinburgh.
And you'll see a lot of good sceneries during the train ride.
But I would advise that if you want to travel up, so again, book early because for me, I booked quite last minute, and I chose to take the bus instead, and it took around 10 hours for me to travel all the way up, from London to Edinburgh. So I would advise the train. Yeah.
Also, if you're a massive fan of Games of Thrones and Harry Potter, don't forget to visit Scotland because you get to see a lot of interesting things about those two movie series. There's a lot of shops. There's apparently Tom Riddle's grave over there, and also the place where J.K. Rowling first wrote her book for Harry Potter. So don't forget to visit Scotland, guys. Next, well, here one of the most important things that you have to consider is, of course, visa. As we all know, Malaysians don't really need visa to go to Europe, but apparently, starting from 2021, you have to fill in on an online application called Schengen or ATS visa. So you still don't have to pay; it's still free, but you have to give and submit your application 3 months earlier to make sure that you're granted entry into that country. Can check the link that I've provided there to know more about this visa.
So one of the caveats of Brexit, so it affects all of us. Yeah.
True.
So, all right, now about traveling in Europe itself. So those are a few pictures of me within Paris. That's Paris Disneyland, and that's me with the Eiffel Tower. Yep, beautiful. Right? Yeah, fireworks every night, and
Yes.
yeah. And there's me with the Eiffel Tower, and me with the Louvre, where they have Mona Lisa inside as well. So these are the icons of Paris. But again, just to emphasize, Paris itself, even though being a very touristy place, it is also quite notorious for
Trivial crimes.
Sometimes not even trivial. They might rob people in broad daylight as well, in the most creative way. So
Yeah.
again, just be vigilant. Always keep an eye out for your personal belongings and never fall for stupid scams. Share about
And
you?
yeah, I didn't go to Paris though. I went to Nice in France mainly because of its breathtaking view, sunny days. Because apparently in winter London is very gloomy, and as well as good food. It's Nice is combination of it has some sort of influence from Italy, so you can see some Italy architecture as well. But most importantly, it has a lot of contemporary museums, contemporary art museums. So it's a pretty lively city for me. People are nice. I travel alone, and I feel really, really safe there. Over there, you can see the pictures that I took after climbing Colline du Chateau, an old fort in Nice. It's a great place if you want to be there, and it's also quite safe, even though I'm a Muslim and I travel alone.
And yeah, you mentioned about traveling alone. You want to share for the viewers any tips about traveling alone in Europe, especially?
Most importantly, make sure that you have a friend quite near to you, probably a city away, and inform them about your presence at that particular place. Also, know where you want to go. Make sure that your itinerary is complete. And next, make sure that you have enough money. And probably, because you can't borrow from anyone, yeah. Probably like separate your money into the different bags. So even if something bad happened to you, you still have some backup,
Yeah.
and you can go back to UK safely for your elective.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Yeah.
Always have someone to contact within Europe.
Next, I also got to go to Germany. I visited few cities. Probably was a bit manic this phase. I visited 4 cities in 3 days: Düsseldorf, Nuremberg, Augsburg, and Schongau. And it has some sort of gothic feeling going to Germany, you know.
You wanna briefly tell them about each city?
Yeah, Düsseldorf is an old city. There is nothing much over there, but it has a nice port. Nuremberg is where the Nazi declaration and trial went on, and you can see a lot of history going on in Nuremberg. Augsburg is a pretty conservative city, but it's quite calm to be there. And lastly, Schongau, my most breathtaking experience in Europe so far. If you can see in the middle, it's a castle made by King Ludwig II, and it's apparently an inspiration for the movie Beauty and the Beast.
Oh.
So if you're a Disney lover, don't forget to come here, okay? And it was snowing when I went there. It was my first snow. Nothing could top that experience, really.
Yeah, I think for Malaysians, every time we see snow, or first time we see snow, that's definitely nothing beats that experience. All right. Now about the important part, which I believe why a lot of people are listening, the application.
Yes. Here are the outlines and things to consider. Number one, whether you have to apply through university or hospital. Personally, I apply straight through hospital because I believe that number one, you don't need much documentation, and number two, the processing fee is quite cheap because you're dealing with the hospital directly. You can check the you can check their website, and Kosh itself allows you to deal directly with the hospital rather than going through a university. Number two is the visa. You have several options of visa. Usually, for Malaysians going to UK for less than 6 months, we don't need a visa. We can just use tourist visa. That's what you do, right?
Yeah.
But my hospital currently requires us to have short-term study visa. Yeah, which is a bit troublesome, but quite useful if you want to go through the immigration fast. You have to prepare several documentation, and the documentation information that you need to have is in their website. So don't forget to visit their website. You can make it 3 months before the date of your selective or elective. Next is the academic requirements. Some university, for example Newcastle, they require you to have acknowledgement letter from the dean, as well as making sure that you're final year or fourth year in your study. So make sure you check that before your application.
So certain unis want students to be above or at the penultimate year, that is your second last year of study. But if you are a preclinical student wanting to enroll into their elective program, I would suggest that you might stand a higher chance by applying through the hospital instead, because they might be less strict on these requirements than the university themselves. So don't feel discouraged, even they state that as a requirement. Email, and hopefully they would explain and
Tell you more
approve
about
your
that. Yeah.
your request to go. Yeah.
Next is the activities of plenary, because you definitely want to enjoy posting that. Personally, I am a medically inclined person. I don't really like going to surgery or operation theater. Hence, I find Gosh is a very suitable place for me. I got a lot of teaching and learning opportunities as well. And even the clinics, there are a lot of hands-on. But if you're like, yeah, probably, yeah.
Yeah, so in terms of St. Bart's, we had a lot of OT sessions because of the nature of cardiothoracic surgery itself. However, we also have, I also joined their teaching and learning sessions in Bart's together with the students from Queen Mary's University, and their ward rounds, their clinic sessions, and I also get to do some hands-on as well. It all depends on how proactive you are.
And what you want to do. So it's all yours. You're learning, so you have to plan it. Next.
Yeah, that's a big question. So we always emphasize on applying early because, for example, if it happens that you require a visa application, what Nabila mentioned, 3 months. So that's a lot of time needed to process the visa. And myself, I applied way ahead, I think 7 months prior, just so I make sure that I got the application.
And sometimes you have to compete with people all over the world, so the placement and your application will be processed for quite some time. Make sure you apply as early as possible. Next.
Oh, this slide just remind me to talk about my application because Nabila applied through the hospital itself, right? And so for myself, I thought of trying out by emailing this all the consultants in St. Bart's. So I went through online, compiling their emails, and sent my CV and my request of joining the hospital rounds. And fortunately, Professor Apple replied to my email and approved of my application. And
How lucky.
yeah. But again, I wouldn't recommend this way to everyone because it all boils down to luck. But again, you get to save on all the registration fees and all that because otherwise I would have to pay £550 just for registration alone. So again, keep in mind this is an option, but not the only option, and definitely not the most guaranteed method to apply.
And last part of
Yep.
our
We're gonna offer you our tips and guidance to bring you through your electives.
So here are a few important apps that you might want to have whenever you visit UK. Number one is City Mapper, where it helps you to actually plan your journey or plan your journey earlier. It has several options. You can choose to use bus or tubes. Some are combination of them, walking. But City Mapper definitely helps us a lot, and it also updates the whatever that happens in London transport system at real time. So if there's anything happening, you get to know it, and you know you should use an alternative method.
And I
Our the blue colored logo is
yep,
actually
the rail
a
card.
rail card, and it is something that you can use for discount. Actually, we can apply for 1625 rail card discount, where you have to pay £30 for a year, but you get massive discount. I personally think that I saved more than £30. I think I saved around 100 traveling using this rail card. And Trainline is an app where you can book intercity train. So it's useful if you want to go to places nearby London by train, for example, Bath, Cambridge, Oxford, etc.
Yep, yep. And it offers you a comparative prices across different
Yeah.
yeah, different companies as well.
Yes.
And
TfL Oyster, Transport for London Oyster. Of course, you have the Oyster card, but you can also use the the online apps itself. And what's good about this app is that if you lose your Oyster card, it will save the amount of money that you have. So it's quite helpful in case you have a lot of money in your Oyster card.
so yeah, just to emphasize this Oyster card, some of you might heard of it before. So basically, it is the touch and go for London. Everything revolves around the Oyster card for traveling. I mean, transport, and that is what you check for, lah. Transport for London. Yeah.
DB is just an app for traveling around Germany. You can check it if you want to go to Germany though. Next.
So make sure you get City Mapper. Yeah, you can't survive without City Mapper. Yeah.
True.
Oh, yeah, this slide is just for me to emphasize on the choice between taking a train and a bus. So that's the iconic London Red bus, and that's the underground tube. Okay, so you might ask yourself, because when you arrive in London, you have the choice of applying for a season pass, for train, or just bus alone. So I was again contemplating which package to get, and eventually I chose the bus season pass. However, in retrospect, I think it's best that I got both train and bus, because on peak hours, the bus is very, very notorious for accuracy and timing, and it gets a lot of disruptions. And as for the tube, even though it's packed, but it saves you on a lot of travel time, and therefore it's much more safer for you to travel that way. Yeah. And yeah, that's all for our live stream in terms of our point of view. So if you have any questions, I've seen there's a list of questions here for us already. So again, just comment your questions and we'll start replying them now.
Hey,
Right, let's
so
start
let's
from the
start with
first
the
one.
question.
Okay, so
Yeah, it's from
our friend here,
yeah.
Jason Law,
Shout out for you.
yeah, he's asking about the living expenditure for a month in London.
Okay, personally, if you add up accommodation, my accommodation at that time was £115 per month per week for a three-bedroom. So it's around £460 per month for an accommodation. For food, I believe that I saved quite a lot on food. I only spend around £5 to £6 per day because sometimes I cook, or sometimes my friend cooked for me, so I was able to get food from them. Yeah. So 5 times 30, I would assume that's around £150. Safe amount would be around 1,000 to 1,500 pound. If converted, it's around 7,000 ish minus your flight over there. But if you plan to go and shop around, you have to make sure that you have some amount of money. And visa actually require you to have at least 1.25k pound if you're staying in London, or 1.1k pound if you're not staying in London. So just make sure that is also another need that you have to fulfill before you get your visa.
I mean, visa, just to clarify, it's a short-term study visa. So if you go under the tourist visa, which is the default, you don't really need that requirement.
Yeah.
So you could go just as a tourist. For my point of view, I, I I might be a bit skewed because I don't have to pay for accommodation,
Yeah.
but just go very often to Sainsbury or Tesco. They're your best friends in by surviving in London because they offer very cheap groceries
Meals
yeah,
well,
ready
very
meals.
cheap.
Yeah. So the next question.
Is it very competitive to secure an elective in the London hospital? How about St. Bart?
Well, in terms of St. Bart's, I think it's competitive only during certain periods of time because they have this platform for European students where they call Erasmus. Basically, during peak periods, there will be a lot of students all around Europe coming to St. Bart's, and that might be a bit of a challenge for us trying to apply into Bart's. So again, apply early, and that's your best bet of
Yeah,
getting here.
and I would suggest applying at different part of the hospital itself. There's a lot of hospital actually. You can check them at the NHS website and send your applications to several hospitals to increase your chance of being accepted.
Thank you, MK Chong, for your question. Next, we have Winnie Hu.
Our friend as well.
Yeah, and so the question is, do they require IELTS as part of the application?
Yeah, so apparently several university requires you to have application. For example, if you apply to Saint but through Queen Mary, I believe they need IELTS. Newcastle University for Royal Victoria Infirmary in Newcastle also require you to have an IELTS. For me, Gosh did not ask for IELTS at all, so it's actually a good option for me so I don't have to spend money doing IELTS again.
Because keep in mind, IELTS only lasts for only 2 years, so it might be a hassle for you to apply.
Yeah, and please know that it is case to case basis, hospital to hospital basis. So make sure you check with your hospital before applying to them.
Yeah. All right. So we hope we answer your question, Winnie. Next, for Dave Burgery. How did you guys manage food? Eating out in UK must be pricey. Yeah. So as Nabila mentioned earlier, eating out is pricey. However, the groceries there are quite affordable. So again, her advice for you is to get a fridge, right?
Yeah, find an accommodation with fridge so that you can store your groceries and probably cook or prep meal ahead of time. Or there's also you can also use our student ID, which apparently has NHS logo. A lot of restaurant offer 30% discount for food. So probably you can check those restaurant out. Example, Nando's. I think chicken wings also have that kind of discount. So make sure that you ask about NHS discount at the places that you want to go and eat.
I mean, looking for food, even eating out is quite easy comparatively. I mean, in London because everything is online, so you can check the menu beforehand. You can check all their discounts and promotions beforehand as well. You can even book reservations online through different apps. So again, just do a bit of research, and you can save a lot of costs just by planning out your daily meals.
And lastly,
Again, a next question also from Dave. Was it intimidating being an exchange student? Like, did the lecturers, students there have expectations on you? Yeah, you want to share that?
okay. Personally, I feel like it's a great experience. I don't feel burdened by any expectation. And even though I was posted, I have a consultant there. I spent a lot more time for. I spent a lot more time with the senior house officer in the ward. So since the age gap is not that much, and they treat you like a colleague, you basically feel very welcomed. You don't really feel shy to ask questions, and they really try hard to make you a part of the team. They update you on a lot of things. They will invite you for for a lot of activities, and apart from that, you can definitely function well as a medical student or their colleague there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's also kind of like my experience, similar in St. Bart's. So it wasn't intimidating at all in Bart's, and even though they have very minimal expectation, just like they expect you to know a bit of what basic science, a bit of background knowledge about what they're doing, but they are very happy to guide you through their process. For example, during surgeries, they might even teach you about anatomy halfway through the surgery. Like there was once that the registrar caught an artery, just point out to me, do you know what this artery is? This is the pulmonary artery. Remember, look how it looks like, where it is. So it is, and they treat you like their colleague. That's the main point that I cannot emphasize enough. They don't exactly treat you like a student. They involve you in discussions during ward rounds, during clinical sessions. So you never feel left out as part of being an exchange student.
Yeah, even my consultant asked me, how can we manage this patient, or do you know anything more about this patient that can contribute to its management? Yeah, so don't be afraid to explore new culture and experience the good work ethics over there.
Yeah. The next question
Gary?
from Gary.
Yeah.
Can we apply for multiple departments during our elective? Yes, definitely. Like myself, and I applied to different. I mean, even though I applied for cardiothoracic surgery, eventually my supervisor put me into cardiology, cardiac imaging, and in radiology as well. So it's again up to you about how you want to apply. However, different hospitals might have different requirements. So some of them might limit you on how many departments that you can go to. Nabila, do you want to share about that?
Yeah, like what I can say earlier, be proactive if you want to learn a lot more. Because personally, I was posted to only one department, which is cardiorespiratory, but everyone is so accommodating. I actually talked to them, and I was able to visit the psychiatry department. I also went to the psychology unit. I also got to go to the hematology unit, and it was by invitation from a consultant, from the consultant of hematology department. So yeah, like what I said, please be proactive, and you definitely can go there. Even if you're only posted to one specific department, you can ask around, and I'm pretty sure you will get to do it at several departments.
So here we have one last question.
Yeah.
So big question, what is the impact that has brought to you after being exposed to UK hospital and their healthcare system? What could be used to improve our healthcare system and environment, including interactions, not only between patients? Okay, okay, right. So basically our reflection, right, and how we're gonna improve. Do you wanna
Well, I think we could branch
share?
this
Yeah.
to several things. Number one is the system itself, that it is very systematic and organized. Number two is the work ethics. Apparently, at my hospital, they have a KPI for happiness among the staff. They have like yeah, they have a day and night out for the staff. They went bowling, they went for birthday parties, they went to concert, Rita Ora concert apparently, and that actually is a very very good experience for me. They really care for the staff happiness, and they really help each other out. So I think this is something that we definitely can improve in our Malaysian system. Apart from that, I can't really see any obvious gap between SHO and registrar and consultant. Everyone just help each other out and try to be a part of an effective team.
And for my point of view, they have several good systems which I think we can definitely implement in Malaysians context. So, for example, because everyone is required to teach as part of their culture as being a doctor there. So, for example, if you're just a houseman or what they call FYs over there, they're required to teach medical students as well. So it is part of their requirement to teach, and that definitely generates a lot of discussion among even the junior doctors and the students. So it's the same for the senior doctors towards junior doctors and consultants to the senior doctors. So you have a chain of teaching where the experience and the knowledge gets passed down. And that is not actually present here. We don't have a solid system for that. So maybe we can try that out one day. And also, what Nabila mentioned, that they truly respect each other through within the environment. They help each other out, and even the simplest things like they treat their staff just as their friend. They will ask how's the day, and they won't stress each other out. So things like these, I think it takes a while to adapt to. But once we if we have this kind of culture, it can definitely bring a positive impact to our system here.
Your multidisciplinary team, for example, the nurse educator, the social worker, everyone plays a very big role. Nobody is superior than the other, and everyone would listen to each other. So even though their role might not be that significant, but they play their part very well, and that creates a good system for the patient itself.
Yes. Even during the rounds, it is not everything is dictated by the consultant themselves. The pharmacist chips in, the occupational therapist chips in, the staff nurse chips in. Even the medical students can sometimes offer their opinion as well, and that has an impact on how we manage the patients. So yeah. And all right, that brings us to our last question already. And thank you very much for your time.
Yep, thank you for listening to us.
Yep, thank
I
you.
hope, like, we hope that you got a lot of insight on elective in the UK. I hope this is a beneficial session for you guys. Thank you for tuning into us for almost an hour.
Thank you very much. And please, for next month, please tune in for our next speaker who will share about her experience in India, her electives in India. So please share this video to your friends to promote about MMI abroad. And
If you
so,
guys have any other question
yeah.
that we can't manage to answer
Yes.
tonight, probably can send it to the team, and we'll try our best to get you a
reply.
question.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, you can share this video so that your other friends can watch it at their own time. And so, yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the team. Thank you everyone for listening, and have a good night.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye bye.